hello, and go after. Welcome to Sportsball Razzifarai, a show that provides answers to viewer-supplied questions from a modern-day Celtic Norse shaman here in South Central Alaska. Be sure to tune in each Wednesday night when the shaman answers questions from viewers like you. Come on, let's hear what the shaman is answering this week. Someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great-grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them. Like that.
Hello, and go after. How are you this evening? I hope everything is going well and that your Wootens Day has been packed filled with experiences that have made you a better person, found that better version of yourself to embrace and to hold. Well, as always, as we get started tonight, I want to say first, thank you so much for all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed. Thank you so much. It is because of you that our message is being distributed far and wide as we attempt to provide, hopefully, something that resonates with you, the listeners, and hopefully helps you along your spiritual journey. We're all on a unique journey, so taking time to embrace many different perspectives will help us. And in tonight's topic, we'll definitely cover this idea of perspectives. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends and family at New Reality TV, newrealitytv.com, a new streaming channel with a plethora of spiritual perspectives that may help, again, provide some resonance within you that can help you along your path and along your journey through the struggles that you may have in your everyday life. So check them out. Well, tonight we are answering a question. Let me see here. We are answering a question from Emily from Ohio. Emily, thank you very much for your question. And she asks, how do I find courage to face each day when anxiety feels overwhelming? So obviously some anxiety going on there. So let's talk about two ways to do that. All right. So the first way we're going to talk about is the most common sense approach, and that is proactively looking forward and saying, okay, this is going to be a stressful situation. How can I eliminate that to reduce my anxiety, right? So many times, many of us we may feel an emotional energy of anxiety when we're changing jobs, as an example, or when we're making particularly larger changes in our lives. Maybe getting a new house, or maybe even a new car. You know, many different things are going to cause this anxiety. What's causing the anxiety? That big word that drives many people, and that word is the unknown. We don't know. And so many times in the job case, I always tell people when they're applying for a job, learn about the job, figure out what it is. So if you get it, you're reducing your anxiety because you already know what you're doing. And so all you have to do is harmonize with your coworkers and and the job itself will take care of itself, right? So you're learning in advance to kind of prepare yourself again for this this unknown, right? And so there's going to be a lot of unknowns in our lives. We're constantly going to be challenged with these unknowns, coming in left, coming in right, up, down, in, out, over, around. All of these changes are going to happen in our lives. Some of them we had no idea were coming. A prime example, a very good friend of mine, his daughter just announced that they are expecting. He was shocked. Firstly and foremost, he didn't even know that she had a significant other in her life. And then secondly, to come to find out, of course, that they're expecting, and they're ready, they're prepared, they've done their homework, they're probably the best prepared parents that you could meet, right? So they're ready. And so it was quite a shock to him. So how do we prepare for that? Well, how about communicating with your daughter? Obviously, you missed the whole time that she was dating her, I think it's now husband. We could have known a little bit before we got the birth announcement, maybe. So there are a multitude of ways that we have within us the ability to kind of mitigate anxiety in a proactive way. Okay, so a lot of what we need to kind of address when we talk about living our lives is taking some time for intrinsic reflection. All right, remember that's meditation. And we're going to take that time, and what we're going to use that time for is essentially thinking about what could happen. Now, don't overwhelm yourself. Now, I know several people have come to see me, and they're just overwhelmed with this kind of precognition of things that could happen or may not happen, or who knows, right? So let's not get too wrapped around the axle. Now, remember also, in the normal thought process of things, the way your brain works is we process as an experience through our sensory input, down through our heart, back to our brain where it's converted, and it goes through the decision gate right there at the end before arriving in our memories. Now, when it arrives in our memories, whoop, out the smokestack it goes, and it arrives at the next sensory input, right? And this process is called imagination. Now, imagination is a wonderful thing. It can also run away with us, right? So we got to kind of keep it in check, if you will. But imagination is simply using the imagery, particularly imagery that we've just acquired, associated with imagery we already had in our mind, then cranking out imagery to now feed in with our sensory input that's coming in. So that imagery is coming in, and it's altering how we see situations in front of us, how we're experiencing our lives. And so sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Sometimes that's unnecessary, not bad, unnecessary. This mechanism, if you will, is what predicts or sets up the idea of fight or flight in your mind. This is what builds it. It's your imagination. Okay? This is why things like jump scares at your haunted houses, this is why they're pretty effective sometimes, because our imagination is actually making it a lot worse than it really is. Really, it's John from the corner store, who's now doubling up as Jason, the assassin or whatever, and your brain knows it's John, right? Your brain, back of your brain knows that, but our imagination has this thing with assassins, so it gets blown out of proportion, and the scare works, right? Now, obviously, if John can hide his face and do his costume right, it kind of adds to the potential that now you don't recognize John from the corner store. And now the jump scare is most likely going to work because who knows who this guy is, right? So it's these types of things that helps our fight or flight response to experiences, to events that occur in our lives. So we need that imagination rolling, right? So because that imagination may predict the lion in the woods, and the rest of us is there's not a lion in the woods. We're in Toledo, there's no lions in the woods. Where our imagination is saying there is, and lo and behold, up pops these little yellow eyes above the grass, and you're like, what? Right? And now all of a sudden there is indeed a lion in the woods, and now your body is already prepared for it because your imagination has kind of spun things up in advance of actually getting the sensory input to now support whatever it was thinking. So imagination plays a role in our thought process, in the way we interpret our world, right? So it's a critical piece. It's also the thing to know about imagination is it also works on the same fibers that creates this other thing that we call wisdom. It's the same thing. All we're doing is we're taking different intellect points and we're interconnecting them across 3 different main veins. The first being emotion. So when we bring in an experience, if it has emotional energy that's similar to some other experience in your brain, they establish a connection. And then they are now adjoined. So when you have a memory of one, you may have lingering memories of the other. The second thing it's going to join is intellect, right? So if you know one thing and that's related to another thing that you also know, that's the intellect connect. And the final thing is imagery. Now, imagery has a really cool secondary feature in that not only can it connect to imagery, to other images within the memories, but it also can connect to emotions. So imagery connects to emotion. All right. So this is really how your brain kind of puts everything together. So imagination is a part of that. So it's a part of those interfibers between intellects woven by experiences that we have in this physical life. All right. So super important that we recognize that. So again, keeping our precognition in check, we can prepare for the unknown. Very akin, I think my ancestors defined it the best for me in that they said the unknown is like a dark room. Who knows what's in there? You could step on Legos, roller skates, who knows? Tonka trucks, kick the table leg, kick the piano leg. Who knows what you're going to kick? It's dark. But when we illuminate it, i.e., we inform, we educate, we grow, right? With knowledge and intellect, we're illuminating this dark, this unknown, by providing knowns. What we know, we learn, we grow, we conquer this unknown, right? So that's really a predictive, proactive way to keep anxiety in check. Okay? I'm not even going to try to promise that that's going to do the trick for you, because chances are some of us may already be stewing in anxiety. It's already too late to be proactive. We're here, all right? We've already arrived. So how do we get out of the mess that we've made called an anxiety mess? Well, first things you got to do is you got to shut off the faucet. Okay? So what I recommend is closing everything down. Closing your eyes. Softly close your eyes. Don't squeeze them. All you're going to do is just close them. Right? If you have noise canceling headphones, pop those big guys on. Right? poof. You know, maybe do it in these numbers. Do it in these numbers. All right? So carefully, cautiously, and softly. You don't want to exert force. No power, none of that. We're going to be nice and careful. We're just going to... Right? So assume a position, a nice, comfortable, relaxed position. Yes, does this sound like meditation? Yes, it is. All right? So what I want us to do, though, is we are going to use a tool we just talked about, and that's called imagination. We're going to imagine some things. So what I want you to do is I want you to just totally relax, right? Meditate. Just take a minute. It doesn't have to be any special crazy poses. It doesn't have to meet anyone else's standards. This is for you, no one else. Take a moment. And now what I want you to do is I want you to focus on one thing. One thing. And I want you to focus on as many details as you can see with that one thing. Right? Let's see if I have some. Oh, here we go. Let me see. All right. All right. So I don't know if y'all can see this here. We have a. Yes. Can you tell? All right. So. Oh, it's a bottle opener, by the way, in case you're wondering if I actually carry around a mini Mjolnir. No, I don't. I carry around a bottle opener just in case. All right. So, but we're going to take this thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at it first with our eyes open. So we're going to look at it and we're going to just observe as many details as we can, right? So we're going to look at all the details. We're going to look at the greeniness here. Well, you can't see that. Let's see. Whoops. The other way. There we go. We got some greeniness here. I love on the angle there. We got some writing on here. As you go down the handle, we see we got this kind of fake leather strapping going on and a loop, right? All right, so now we've got some really good details, right? So we have something to reference. And what I want you to do is when you close your eyes, I want you to put this image, that image, in your mind. And I want you to focus. Just drill yourself down to where maybe you can imagine yourself standing on the top here, standing on the top and looking over this vast metal top, right? Like a field of metal, and you're standing, so you're a little speck right here on the thing, and you're just looking out over the whole thing. And then you're going to look down over the edge as it slides away from the top, and you're going to see that angle. And you're going to see in those angles is all these pits and ruts and looks like somebody's backyard after a good rainstorm, right? And we're paying attention to all the details. All the details. Completely focused on this. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is I want you to spend, now my ancestors would use the word 9 minutes, but I'm going to shorten it a little bit. I'm going to say I want you to hold that focus for 5 minutes. Just 5. And I want you to focus just as detailed as you can. 5 minutes. Now, what's happened? You've probably noticed that all of this stuff has kind of cleared away a little bit. You're focused, and if it's still crowding in, focus more diligently on the token, whatever it is. I used a hammer, but you could use anything, right? You could, if you didn't have anything else, you could pull off a ring. There it is, my amethyst. I'm going to focus on that, okay? Focus. And if you feel that pressure coming back in, I want you to focus more diligently on the item. Focus. Drill down into imagine yourself walking through the ruts on that angle piece, remember? You're walking on those ruts, and you're trying to make sure you don't fall off the edge, obviously. And you're seeing just ruts everywhere. And you're kind of making your way through them. Imagine just the details, as many details as you can get, as you can focus on. Now, when you can maintain that focus for 5 minutes, you will discover that those things that were giving you anxiety are not giving you anxiety anymore. They've kind of slipped away. Why? Because ultimately, in the big picture of things, our brains can only focus on a limited number of things. And yes, for even those of you who swear up and down that you can multitask, your brain can only focus on certain number of things. Period. Right? So if you have all of this coming in, there's two things that are going to occur. The first thing is very dangerous, and that is your brain. I don't know if you watched the show, but please go back and listen to it. It's called The Cup of Feeling. This was another vision that my ancestors gave me that described how our biochemistry, our bodies, actually make us think we feel a certain way as that biochemistry energy is converted back into just energy to now transmit across the nerves in the brain. So as this is occurring, there are things that can occur where we have too much explosion in the horn of feeling and we get some overrun out of that horn, spills around to the brain. This is where we actually see physiological symptoms, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, sweaty, rapid heart rate, maybe even upset stomachs, all of these things. And those are occurring because you've got too much emotion going through the horn of feeling and it's essentially spilling out onto the rest of the brain. Super important that we recognize those because we have a tool. That's right. We, humans, unlike any other creation, have a tool called cognitive space. And it's a little bitty space. And it fits right on top of the horn of feeling. Now, as long as the cognitive space is open, available, we can kind of take the energy that's being created, that's being converted from the biochemistry, take this energy and we can manage it. Keep it in control, put it in the pipe on into the meat gate. So we can get it where it's going effectively. What happens many times is that we have one of two cases that are going to exist in the brain. This is the first part, we'll talk about in a minute, called silt. And the second part is a real big energy explosion. And that real big energy explosion we have to get control of very quickly. Now, I'm going to give you a visualization. As this energy is coming up, think of root beer foam coming up through a mug. You're pouring in the root beer, and the foam is like 4 times as much root beer is foam, right? And it's just growing and growing. It's going to come out of the mug. What are we going to do? Well, for those of you who were raised in the Midwest, lick the old finger and drop it in the foam, and what happens? The foam implodes, right? It kind of, right? All right, so that's what I want you to think about we're going to do with this cognitive space. Is as this energy is coming up, we're going to break it back down, and when it's down, we're going to use that opportunity to chunk it up, to break it apart and handle one thing at a time. Move things from a parallel processing to a serial processing, where it's one at a time, single file, right? And that way our brain can maintain this energy and it can keep it in the horn and going where it's supposed to go. Now, having said that, there are some alternatives when we're living inauthentically to our beliefs, to our values, to our virtues. When we're living inauthentically, we create a different biochemistry that actually settles into the horn of feeling as silt. And this silt then takes up some of the space that would have normally been used to expand this energy, right? So instead of getting this much, the whole screen here, now we only get about that much to process the energy with, which means we're more than likely going to overrun that cognitive space fairly easily. So we have to be cognizant of those things. When we live authentically, living authentically, dealing with our virtues, our values, our belief systems, that core of who we are, and we can live that way, we make decisions that way, we make behaviors that way, what we find is that you have less of this silt in your horn of feeling, thereby allowing the biochemistry that's being dumped into it to expand and not overflow. Okay, so we can maintain control. We maintain that cognitive space. This is super important when it comes to anxiety. Anxiety, like everything else, feeds anxiety. So if we were to be anxious about something, anything we experience is going to add to that anxiety, right? So the energy from our memories, because we just made two connections, right? We brought in two more, as an example, two more experiences. Those experiences then connected. They connected to other experiences already in our brain, and those experiences now all send this energy forward in imagination. It now processes through, and it's beginning to now amp up the energy within the experience, within the sensory input. This then pushes more energy through the well of the self, through the horn of feeling, through the gate, the me gate, and ultimately into our brain. But in the process, it's going to overflow the horn of feeling, and it's going to put this energy out into parts of the brain that doesn't know how to handle this kind of energy. Therefore, it simply does what it does. And those would be your physiological symptoms. That's where your brain's going to tell you to start sweating. It's going to say, speed up the heart rate. I don't know what's going on. It's going to say shallow breathing. It's going to possibly issue a panic attack or a anxiety attack. It's going to get your attention. Stressing. You could you're accumulating stress. So the idea of being able to get grounded again, using some form of meditation, just that moment, that ultimate focus is really what we're trying to accomplish. And that allows us to push all that stuff away and actually get our cognitive space back again to where we can begin to manage that energy coming into that part of our brain. All right? So, who is it? Emily. Emily from Ohio. Thank you so much for your question. Whoops, where is it? There it is. It's over there. Yep. Your shirt is on its way. We'll get that in the mail first thing in the morning, and so you should have it in a couple of days. So be sure to check your mail. For the rest of you who haven't asked a question, feel free to do so. You can visit my website, NorseWhispers.com. There you can scroll all the way to the bottom, look to the left, and you'll see a big orange button that says Ask Me a Question. Do so. If we make a show out of your question, then I'll send you a free t-shirt. Free, and that means no shipping, no handling, no special charges, no hidden costs, nothing. You get a free t-shirt in the mail, and that's it. All right? So, hopefully I've answered a question about how do you find courage to face each day when anxiety feels that it's overwhelming you. Again, be proactive. Try to get as much taken care of in advance so that you're not having to be in the situation. And if you find yourself in the situation anyway, now is the time to get grounded and to bring in that focus. Focus your attention away from those things that are making you anxious. Go to a single point. Go to something that you can focus on. All right? I hope that helps. For all of you, I hope that you will join me again tomorrow morning when we'll be back with Forfellinus Bellisnig, and we'll be talking about just that morning ancestral illumination to kind of get our energies going in the right direction. So I hope you will join me there at 7 o'clock a.m. Alaska time. We will see you there. And do know, not this weekend, but next weekend, we do have a drum circle going on here in Anchorage. It'll be up at the Abbott Loop Community Park. I hope to see some of you there. Please feel free and stop by and say hi. I'm always excited to meet people and to see wonderful people along their journeys. So please stop by and say hi. All right? Love and light, and we will see you again tomorrow morning.